All right, we are recording a live stream clip. I'm gonna turn this fucking speed up. Dack is gonna tell us why he doesn't like Jimmy Dore, or why he doesn't watch Jimmy Dore. My bad. Overwritten with Dack Rouleau. I've done some of his content before. We've debated before. I don't really have any problems with him. His voice is funny though. Oh wait, and he hates Detroit sports. I find that so fucking funny. What? No, no. That little snail got wrecked, alright? She crawled up in her shell and slowly, as slow as anything could be, like, slimed away. What happens? Don't fuck with squirrels, bro. You should know this. Anyways, before I get started, do not forget to share, support, hopefully donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery, helping out victims of Africom, helping out a fellow content creator, and someone I happen to like, Stevie, aka Red Economics. Help out another content creator, Sleepy Josh, a guy I really like to have sex with. That was a joke. I was totally joking. And also, helping out Cohen Daly, who suffered some medical issues in regards to cancer, shit spreading through his body, and he's a young kid. So I understand why people want to help. And you can do so in the description box, his GoFundMe. Please, if you can't donate, then share. I'm talking about all of them. Can't donate to any of them, please share the links everywhere. Pause. That people can be aware of it. Hey, look at all these fucking problems. Shouldn't we be helping each other out and shit? Just saying. Yeah, we have Nazi ducks and snails. Just saying. Being real. They kind of seem like Nazis to me. Anyways. Alright, so here we have Dack Rouleau. I haven't talked to him in a long fucking time. Because he wrote some fucking tweet that made me think, like, are you in favor of violence? Like a violent type of thing or whatever, but apparently he's not in favor of it. He just says, I don't know why that's. I think his point was that why are we focused on it as something? I'm like, because not only is it strategically stupid, it could be morally questionable. But I could be misrepresenting his argument, but he did that shit to me, so I'm my little payback. All right. So the name of his video is Why I Don't Watch Jimmy Dore. And here we go. I'm gonna turn the fucking thing on. Closed caption. Here we go.
I'm Dack Rouleau, and this is Overwritten. In tonight's episode, we will consider the argument against Jimmy Dore. This is an argument I've wanted to make for more than a year, and one which I consider making every time the so-called independent media rallies to defend this man against his critics. This is what passes for activism in the postmodern digital era. We have pseudo-celebrities defending other celebrities against the criticisms of still other celebrities. And to be fair, we
Trickle down.
should acknowledge that some of Jimmy Dore's critics attack him in bad faith. They attack him dishonestly. There are individuals like the writer for Variety magazine who recently complained about the cost of Jimmy Dore's house, and these people attack him because they have a corrupt and vested interest in defending the establishment and undermining criticism of the establishment. However,
I don't know that person, but I could see that.
because of this failing among his more prominent critics, all criticism of the man is preemptively dismissed as iniquitous establishmentarianism or something similar. This is
Fanboying and fangirling. Don't want to be sexist.
dishonest and it's incorrect. So tonight we will make a more thoughtful argument against Jimmy Dore, and we will begin by taking a look at some of his corruption. On this point, I have a personal problem with Jimmy Dore that I would like to address with the Overwritten audience. Jimmy Dore was involved in the campaign to suppress coverage of my work. As you probably are already aware, I was the only journalist who went on the campaign trail in 2019 and 2020 to question the Democratic Party presidential candidates about their stance on the prosecution of Julian Assange.
I've covered, I think, all of them. Covered. I'm not a journalist, but you know what I mean? Like, he's like a journalist type guy. I'm a commentator, but yeah, I watched them all and all reacted to basically all of them. I think I think all of them, except for Tulsi Gabbard, I think, because we already understood where her stance was.
And while I fully expected the mainstream media to disregard my work, as it would make the mainstream media look very bad, I never expected the so-called independent media to disregard it too, because it...
And to add something to that, I think I told him this. I'm like, dude, you should have way more like views and followers from this shit. Who else is doing this? I was like, because this is my early days of YouTube, not understanding how anything works really. I'm like, dude, how come no one's like, if you have a fucking Bernie Sanders on videotape telling you his, whether it's a dismissal stance or an actual stance on Julian Assange, like you would think that people would go to fucking look for that. They'd want to know. That in fact, they'd just randomly looking like, hey, what does Bernie think about Julian Assange, and end up finding your video because he doesn't get asked anywhere. What the fuck? So that was like eye opening to me. So yeah, he was like, if he's not the only guy, he's one of the very few that we're asking these guys these questions. Here we go.
It raised questions about other journalists and commentators and their own apparent disinterest in questioning the candidates. Basically, if we want to see these journalists and commentators as rebels and revolutionaries, well, then why are they just sitting in their chairs and pontificating? Why aren't they getting out and doing the work of questioning establishment politicians? Why was I the only one who was capable of doing such a thing? Well, this is a rather awkward question for them, so they prefer just to disregard the one person who was able to show them up. And the only time any so-called independent media outlet covered my work was when Graham Elwood attempted to exploit it. He brought Taylor Hudak, his girlfriend at the time, onto his program and interviewed her about my work. He never credited me at any point because he wanted to steal my work and use it to prop her up and advance her journalistic ambitions.
Now this shit, I have no idea. I don't know. I see it as possible. 100% I see it as possible. But I personally do not know.
Her ambitions to
no wiggle room.
Now, Graham Elwood is, of course, one of Jimmy Dore's closest buddies, and it is interesting that Jimmy Dore, who presents himself as one of the most assiduous defenders of Julian Assange, never once took any interest in any of the work that I was doing on this subject. He ignored it, including the infamous videos of Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang, although he did dedicate an entire episode of his show to somebody's effort to question Jim Acosta about Julian Assange. And by the way, before anyone accuses me of making my personal drama the substance of this show, I should point out that Jimmy Dore has created his own soap opera based on his ongoing tiff with the Young Turks. His spat with his former colleagues has basically become a spin-off of the Jimmy Dore show, and now we see a whole bunch of other news commentators filming episodes of their own shows in which they cheer him on and take pot shots at the Young Turks.
That doesn't alleviate the question of whether you're doing it strictly for your drama, but I get it. Saying, hey, these guys are doing it too. I get that. Here we go.
And I'm not defending the Young Turks because I have no respect for any of them. But let's not pretend Jimmy Dore is somehow above the petty scuttlebutts of the tabloid.
Scuttlebutts, bro.
So why did Jimmy Dore deliberately disregard the only journalist who questioned the Democratic Party presidential candidates about Julian Assange? Because he had a corrupt, vested interest in doing his buddy's bidding. And earlier this year, we saw him do the bidding of another charlatan when he filmed an endorsement video for Panquake. Panquake, as you may remember from the video Christy Doff and I recorded several months ago, is a pyramid scheme. You, the target of the scam, are encouraged to invest in a proposed social media app, but you...
Now this I've heard of, and seems quite, as far as I understood, documented. In fact, I read his Twitter thread responding to these guys because they were calling him an FBI agent and they were calling him a stalker too. They were saying he was changing account names and following Taylor Hudak wherever the fuck she went. So I do remember that. And also the Susie Dawson lady accusing him of being a Fed or something. So yeah, that I do remember, and it seems pretty documented as far as just like simple quote, like, hey, where'd the money go? This all got raised, then where'd the money go? And that has been constantly talked about in regards to anytime you hear something like Panquake brought up. Yes, scuttlebutt is hilarious. That's just a funny word to say. I might steal that shit. Call someone scuttlebutt, bro. Oh, that's hilarious to me. All right, here we go.
you are really just throwing money at Susie Dawson, a con artist and a mountebank who pretends to be pursued by the CIA. It does not require a great deal of intelligence to see through Panquake and to know that Dawson.
People have
is
questioned that
defrauding
as
people.
well, like
But Jimmy Dore,
that she's actually on the run or
who
not.
has a businessman's very sharp acumen, he filmed an embarrassing testimonial for Panquake anyway, alongside the aforementioned Graham Elwood.
Now, it seems like Elwood is 100% in. He's like, yeah. But I can see room for people thinking that Jimmy is just straight up like, what do you want me to do? Read this? Okay. Like, he really might not give a shit. Just like, okay. Yeah, Graham asked me to do this. I'm just doing it. But I could, I can see that, I definitely leave room for someone to make an argument. Purposely leaving room so someone can make an argument against that notion. Because in this realm, nothing surprises me nowadays. Here we go.
So why did he do this when he, being an intelligent businessman, is perfectly aware of everything that is wrong with the project? Because, again, he had a corrupt vested interest in doing his buddy's bidding. Now, with these two examples, we have, I hope, painted a portrait of a man decidedly different from that of the pure-hearted activist he presents himself to be.
Yes,
Jimmy
I
Dore
do know
derives
about
his
that.
appeal from his everyman image, from his popular perception as a man uncorrupted, the man on the street, which, if true, would obviously distinguish him from the paid propagandists at NBC News and CNN. It is his lack of corruption, whether it be authentic or an affectation, that separates him from the rest of the pack, and has obtained for him a massive social media following.
It's also the pronounced, like, this is what care looks like. We've been conditioned to view care as something like, yeah, ah. When that guy scores a touchdown, yeah. Oh, he must care. Or, tears or something like that, right? Some sort of emotional reaction. I think typically people associate that with care, right? So, yeah, it's not only the narrative of, I'm the guy doing the work that other people are too afraid to fucking do. They'd be scared. They'd get smeared. They'd have their life threatened. I do it. I'm the guy. Not only that, but also the anger and emotion behind it. Whether it's, like you said, real or fake, authentic or inauthentic. Here we go.
He is widely considered to be the king of independent media, which, if we consider it, is actually a contradiction in terms. The whole idea of the so-called independent media is to offer an alternative to the hierarchical structure of the corporate media, where money and influence determine whether one is seen or heard or read or respected. Yet what we have seen the so-called independent media become is a microcosm of the mainstream corporate media.
Trickle down.
Here in the so-called independent media, influence and credibility and success are all determined by the size of one's following. Overwritten is dismissed as an irrelevant, useless channel because it has fewer than 1,000 followers, yet
Like I said, when I messaged him about his videos, about his asking people about Assange videos, I'm like, how come this shit didn't blow up? And it's like, oh, little Jordan, take a seat. Let me tell you a story. Like, you just, at that point, you don't even know or realize. But here we go.
Overwritten is dismissed as an irrelevant, useless channel because it has fewer than 1,000 followers, yet a mediocrity like the Convo Couch is praised as something real because it has 40,000 subscribers. And Jimmy Dore is recognized as...
It happens, sorry. This is why one of my biggest issues when I was, even back in the day when I had no one fucking watching me, one of the biggest issues I brought up over and over again was this team playing, fanboying, fangirl fucking thing, where people almost recognize themselves with the fucking content creator. And it's like, hey, what if this content creator slips up? Or what if someone else has better information? Or more clear information? Or whatever. Or I don't want to say better information, but more information, or more context, or a story you never heard of, and on and so forth. Do we have to wait for Jimmy Dore to be like, and now we have Dack Rouleau on. Tell him your name, Dack. Tell him what you do. Show us your videos. We have to wait for that to happen? For the fans who recognize what the content creators step outside of that? I hope not. I hope most aren't in that category. But here we go.
as the king of independent media because his show has almost 900,000 subscribers. There's a conspiracy theory that YouTube is suppressing his show to keep it from hitting 1 million. So Jimmy Dore towers.
No. That should be like laughed at. Maybe there's like something for that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, clearly people are going out of their way to watch you, as opposed to 5 million subscribed TYT.
For everybody else, which means that he should be held to the highest possible standard. Because if he does, in fact, speak for the rest of us, then he has a massive responsibility to perform at the highest possible level. However, as we explained in the beginning of this video,
if his point is to make the world better, he should be demanding the most out of himself. But he seems to dumb his content down to, like, maybe in some way, once again, I'm going to leave room again. Maybe in some way he thinks taking TYT out, who has way less fucking viewership than he does, for some reason taking them out will lead to, like, now everybody can come to me and I'll give them the real information. Now I can get back to work on information instead of whatever. Even though I think he's started venturing into different information somewhat because of a question that Franco asked him. I think he moved somewhat. Here we go.
The highest possible standard. Because if he does, in fact, speak for the rest of us, then he has a massive responsibility to perform at the highest possible level. However, as we explained in the beginning of this video, we have witnessed the opposite reaction. Jimmy Dore is seen as a king or a god, and he is believed to walk on water. And if you take issue with anything Jimmy Dore says or does, then you must be working on behalf of the establishment, and you are trying to divide people, and you are aiding and abetting the enemy, and so on and so forth.
That does happen. Those words he's using would be more in the extreme version, but there's definitely seems like there's a more mealy-mouthed version of that, where it's like, why do you got to pick on Jimmy? Or, hey, Jimmy's doing good. Hey, what are you, a TYT fan? That, like, you'll hear extremes of, what are you, a fucking FBI, whatever the fuck? Going against Jimmy? Going against me? Here we go.
This compulsion to conformity and to fall
What's up,
in line
Winky
with the
Dinks?
herd is probably
Danny Knapp,
even
what's up,
more
Danny Knapp?
conspicuous within the so-called independent media than it is within the corporate mainstream media. And the consequence of this groupthink and this unquestioning submission to intellectual authority is that Jimmy Dore directs his followers in what to think about, and perhaps more importantly, what not to think about.
Once again, whether it's on purpose or not is... I talked about that last night with Jesse, where it's like this thing where, like, you could break someone down psychologically and then end up replacing their ideas. It's like, okay, is that done, like, the intention of doing that on purpose or not on purpose is a huge, huge key, because if you do that on purpose, you're also chipping away at something within your own psyche as you're doing it, and you're becoming less stable, in my opinion. I think that's what happens. Unless you just turn off all fucking emotions and conscience and all that. You turn it all off. All your guilt type things, throw them away. Then you can probably just keep operating the same way. But I think for people who mean well, but their strategy is to break the minds of other people and replace their ideas, like you're doing I think you're chipping away at yourself as you're trying to chip away at them. There's some sort of malice behind it. As opposed to normal things that happen, right? To where it's like, Nas is better than Jay-Z, right? And then everyone makes an argument, and it's like, they just really believe that. They end up breaking someone down and then replacing the idea because they're Nas simps. Everyone knows Jay-Z's better. Get back to the video.
What does Jimmy Dore have to say about authoritarianism in the pandemic? Has he ever acknowledged how we have been living in a state of martial law for the past year and a half? No, he can't do that because doing so would bring him into real, meaningful confrontation with the tyrannical forces he claims to oppose. He is allowed to complain about the lack of governmental assistance to middle-class and lower-middle-class people during the pandemic and to advocate for universal Medicare and similar programs, but in doing so, he reveals how little he understands about what is actually taking place. We are living in a state of martial law and authoritarianism totalitarianism in which the government has claimed absolute ownership over our lives and our bodies. And so it is not exactly surprising that the same tyrannical government has been less than benevolent in offering assistance to its constituents in the form of stimulus checks or universal Medicare or what have you. So Jimmy Dore accepts the basic conditions of authoritarianism. He seems to be perfectly all right with those, but then he complains about some of the specific features. And this is really the modus operandi of...
That one fair? I mean, it seems like, because he'll say this, it seems like he just takes it for granted. I think that's what he does. He takes it very, like, everybody knows that's bad, and he keeps it moving. But what we really need to do is take down TYT, because they're the one who's tricking people into buying into the system. Which, I can somewhat see the logic behind it, but it's too much of the character aspect with Jimmy that makes this fucked up to me. Let's keep going.
All self-proclaimed progressive activists, they complain about the tyrannical power and control of the state, while they simultaneously demand that the state take care of them and solve their problems. The absurdity and the illogic.
Red Sea. I like Jesus more than George Bush.
Understanding of the nature of the American
I'm gonna trick her
state.
because her response is supposed to be George Bush greater than Jesus.
It is not an institution that was organized with good intentions, only to be regretfully corrupted over time.
You fucked up now,
It is an
Duck.
institution that was designed in order to subjugate and dominate and control people. And any attempt to reform the American state or to make it benevolent denies the basic purpose of that state. So what Jimmy Dore is doing is he is promoting the myth or the lie of internal reform, much in the same way that a mainstream politician promotes the lie that we can internally reform the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And obviously, this lack of philosophical thinking and this lack of intellectual seriousness, it's not at all unique to Jimmy Dore. The so-called independent media is replete with pseudo-intellectuals who dabble in political casuistry, and their followers are undoubtedly even less informed than they are. But I've never seen intellectual timidity elevated to a virtue as it has been in the case of Jimmy Dore. His massive appeal speaks to the laziness and the insincerity of self-proclaimed progressive activists, and all self-proclaimed progressives in the postmodern digital era. Revolution, as these people understand it, is not taking practical action, but it's tuning in to the latest episode of the Jimmy Dore Show and entering his super chat and giving him a $100 donation and something like that. That, they believe, is what is going to take down the tyrannical state, despite the fact that Dore does not confront the tyrannical state in a fundamental sense. But more importantly, it reveals the insincerity of the commentators and pundits who, we are told, are leading the pack. I have met many, probably dozens of these YouTube stars in real life, not just through Zoom calls or streams, and I can assure you that there is very little political integrity among these so-called independent media figures. They are wannabe celebrities.
Why do I talk about this human problem so much? Where it's like, even if someone truly believes that politician A and politician B are bad guys, it's like, you got to duck out of the system. They're bad guys. It's like, you are now putting yourself on thought leader pedestal. I'm not. That doesn't even have to be on purpose. Like, people will do weird things following other people. That's small c collectivism. Or lowercase c. MC Hammer is not better than... Kid and Play? Bro. No comment. Your comment stands on its own, Tender. Stands on its own, buddy. Anyways. Yeah. When you have this, like a Tessarian might call like a mishmash, oily rag on the window version of collectivism, where it's just, essentially psychologically possessed people following the psychologically possessed because they're not aware of their audience or their followers or whatever, just walking in lockstep with them without fucking question. Like, yeah, these problems happen, right? The idea of government or team or group or whatever, they're just words, but how are people behaving within these things? It happens on a family level. Or it can happen, for sure, on a family level. A family dynamic. So it's like, oh, maybe you could defeat that here before we worry, or running headlong into fucking politics. All right, here we go. Yes, that's right. That's right, Dack. Lowercase c, that big. Little pp energy.
And pundits who we are told are leading the pack. I have met many, probably dozens of these YouTube
Haters
stars
all over
in
the
real
place.
life,
Lazy
not just
haters.
with Zoom calls or streams.
I'll wreck
and
you
I can
soon.
assure
I'll wreck
you that
all
there
of you
is
soon.
very
Be
little
patient.
political integrity among these so-called independent media figures. They are wannabe celebrities, and they are not in this. They're not in this culture because they have any interest in changing the world for the better, or because they believe they can do so. They are in it because they want those $100 donations, and they want those super chats, and they want to amass large social media followings. And
All right. Well, once again, I think he's doing a lot of blanket terms leaping type stuff. For me, I would rather go individual by individual by individual by individual, make an honest assessment. Because like I said, this phenomenon can happen with or without the intentions of just becoming some form of celebrity. I'm sure there's people that feel like it feels like I was like pushed to be a leader or a celebrity. I didn't ask for this. They just kept doing this. Oh, they keep sending me money. Oh shit. So if I were Dack, I would put it in terms of this can happen. This seems like it can happen. This seems theoretically possible. Or I'm aware of this guy doing this or this lady doing that, on and so forth. That'd be my little advice. Here we go.
to basically enjoy the life of the famous and the wealthy. And that is why
The millionaire, bro.
My YouTube channel is small, because I would feel very uncomfortable and I would be constantly second guessing myself if I were to become as prominent as Jimmy Dore. I would constantly wonder if I had sold out, as he has, or if I were playing to my audience,
Millionaire,
as he
bro.
has, instead of playing to the truth.
Better than
and
Hova?
It took me a long time to realize that these people in the so-called independent media are
What's up with these
charlatans
dudes,
and
Dack?
frauds and speculators.
Dack
and
would be on
sharks.
my side on this.
That's why I didn't realize Jimmy Dore's buddies were
Ja Rule.
my work, and that's why I
Bro.
didn't realize how I was being taken advantage of. And it does hurt,
Huh?
and it doesn't make me feel very good about myself.
No,
But
I
would
think they're
rather
being
have integrity, and I would
100%
rather produce
serious.
Quality content. I would rather do that than live the glamorous,
freak,
self-indulgent
dude?
life of the king of independent media.
No one knows
I'd
where
like to thank my
Ja
audience
is.
for watching this episode of Overwritten. Please consider subscribing to this channel and helping to increase Overwritten's visibility. We had a full week of content last week.
Ja is
including
starting his
coverage
own
of
Epstein
CNN's
Island.
argument for Zionism, as well as CNN's argument for mandatory vaccinations. We also covered the Capitol Riot Commission being led by the United States Congress.
Tony, what's
And,
up,
this week
Tony?
We'll have additional content, including, yes, an examination of the conviction of Daniel Hale. I hope that you will join us for that discussion as well. Thank you very much. Good night.
Yeah, guys, don't. I think Dack means well, and I'd be like, yo, check his shit out. Yeah, for sure. We've had discussions before. Tony. Drake, better than Jay-Z. Like, I'm sorry, people who are watching this recorded version of this video, but if you see a bunch of bodies piled up in my comment section, realize what happened. A massacre had happened. It's gonna, so you have some context, okay? Don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery, helping victims of Africom, also a GoFundMe, helping out Cohen Daly, also a GoFundMe. He's a kid who had fucking terrible fucking cancer, malignant and shit like that. And check it out. The link will be in the description box. Also, helping out some content creators. Stevie, a.k.a. Redneconomics, a.k.a. Fred from Angel, and also Sleepy J, a.k.a. Sleepy Josh, a.k.a. Joshy Boo Boo. 2 scoops and he's done. Sorry, I steal something from Jody's corner. 2 strokes and he's done. Please, donate. Help him out. With all that said, give this video a thumbs down.